Right, I'm now going to start the second session. We're going to talk about the Pacific Australian Labour Mobility Scheme, which has previously had some other names. It's just going through some critical changes at the moment. Joshua Gallagher is going to speak to us, and I'm going to make him the host. And we also have Adrian McMahon, who I'd like to introduce. He's also working with the DFAT team in Bendigo in Victoria. Joshua is based in Brisbane. Welcome, Joshua, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
All right, let's go. All right, everybody. Yes, thank you very much for having me today, inviting me along, as well as my colleague Adrian McMahon at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. My name's Joshua Gallagher. I am the Industry Engagement Coordinator for the Pacific Labour Facility that effectively facilitates. We were facilitating the Pacific Labour Scheme, but as Sally alluded to, we are in the process of going through some critical change at the moment, some very exciting change, some very meaningful change. And the PALM scheme, Pacific Australia Labour Mobility Program, will be coming online officially in the not too distant future. So the Pacific Labour Facility, who are we? We are the, I suppose, the organ that runs the federal program for the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. We're based in Brisbane, and as I said, we're facilitating the Pacific Australia Labour Mobility Program. The program is designed around ensuring that that employers have access to low or to employees that they can have fulfill low to semi-skilled positions. Now, when I say low to semi-skilled, I refer to the ANSCO skill ratings, the Australian New Zealand Skills Council ratings, 5, 4, and 3. 1 being the highest, 5 being the lowest. So it's your low skill through to your semi-skilled being, up to your trade assistant level, or people with Certificate 3, Certificate 4 in various vocational training. So I sit here in Brisbane, and the Pacific Labour Facility is made up of a number of different streams, if you like. We have our supply and growth stream that we work very closely. I sit within the growth stream, having a lot of interaction with industry. So from instances like tonight, through to inquiring with businesses, through to looking after the application process and ensuring that businesses are supported right throughout. Site visits to final due diligence and approvals through DFAT. And we have our supply team that sit within all of the labour sending units that are spread across the sending countries, Timor-Leste and 9 in the Pacific. We've got a really strong worker welfare and delivery capability. It's so critically important because we are in the people game. We're supporting industry, but our workers are so vitally important. So we have a really strong case of welfare support. We have insurance activities that make sure that everything is compliant and running smoothly. We've got a really strong quality learning and performance team internally that does a lot of data collection, research, and collaboration with various external bodies. We have a really important communications team that is demonstrating incredibly important right now with all the change going on, and we wouldn't be anywhere without our operations team. So a bit of an overview of the program that I haven't alluded to already. So it is an employer-sponsored program. So businesses do need to come to us to apply in order to offer opportunities to the Pacific, but also to have the opportunity to go to the Pacific or to Timor and recruit directly from there. So the program came about and has been highlighted even more significantly during the COVID pandemic, that we're here to provide opportunities for local businesses to find reliable workforce. We're again, offering low to semi-skilled positions of employment to Pacific or Timorese workers. There's a number of criteria that employers must meet in order to become approved to utilise the program. So while this might seem exhaustive, I wanted to differentiate between the different types of employment that we have at the program and a few conditions. So prior to PALM scheme, the seasonal worker program that's been operating for 12 years, formerly at the Department of Employment, Skills and Education, where we're really focused on that seasonal agriculture and restricted accommodation services across Australia. That's really focusing on the 6 to 9 months, where workers could come over for 6 to 9 months, having to return home for the remainder of that 12 months. Now, with the longer term employment, we talk about the Pacific Labour Scheme being able to offer employment to workers for 1, 2 or 3 years. Now with PALM, there is going to be an additional option of a 4th year if businesses and workers as a partnership would like that. Now, speaking with that short-term or that seasonal worker program conditions, the main focus for that program, for industry specifically, was agriculture, horticulture, aquaculture, and accommodation services. Now, with the longer term, the Pacific Labour Scheme, that was really open to all industries across Australia, and I'll go into that a little bit more in further detail shortly. Now, the skill level, you'll notice there that it was really unskilled to low skilled work that the seasonal worker program or short term was able to facilitate. And it's that low to semi-skilled, so up to that level 3 of the ANSCO rating that the long-term PLS conditions do satisfy. Labour market testing is required across both short-term and long-term employment, and it's valid for 12 months. In-country uses of agents, yes and no for the different lengths of employment there. Visa lodgements do have to happen, and they will be the employer's responsibility. All workers that are being paid against awards or current agreements, just as you would your local staff. The employment status is casual or fixed-term permanent full-time workforce, and the age of workers is 21 and over. And that used to be 45, but it's really good to see that upper bracket's been taken away now. So these are some of the industries that we've worked across both programs. And again, as I said, as long as you can demonstrate that you need that you have a critical need in your industry through labour market testing, we will try to assist you with partnering with you to select Pacific or Timorese workers. So these are our 10 fantastic sending countries. So as I mentioned, we've got Timor-Leste, we've got Fiji, Tonga, Kiribati, Nauru, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, and Papua New Guinea. Didn't say that in order, but I rattled those off enough to hopefully I've got all of those there on the page for you. They all have really interesting industries and skills that are particular to certain countries, but they are extremely important to the program, obviously. So for businesses here that are attending tonight or might be watching the recording later on, how to engage with the program, how to become an approved employer, as the terminology would state, we want you to visit our website. So it's thepalmscheme.gov.au. Under the Employers tab, there is eligibility and how to apply. And it's the one form needs to be completed all at once. There's a whole lot of workforce data there. We do require you to provide the most 3 years worth of financials so that we can do a financial analysis if you're looking to become a direct employer. If we've got any labour hire companies on the call tonight, we do require you to provide 5 years worth of the most 5 years worth of recent financials so we can undertake a financial analysis there. There are a whole level of background checks that we do undertake. So with the Fair Work Ombudsman, the Department of Home Affairs, and other government agencies. And we will try to undertake the processing of your application in a 6 to 8 week timeframe once we have all the equivalent documents that we need to on our end. The final part of the due diligence side of that is that we will physically come out and visit you and conduct a site visit at your business. So that's for you to ask us as many questions as we have to ask you, because that's a really important part. We want to understand that you do exist. We want to understand your story, and we want to understand how best we can facilitate a success in a partnership between you and any particular workers that you might employ. So once you're approved, this is just a really quick snapshot of the recruitment process. The labour market testing, as I alluded to before, it does need to have, it's a 14-day period where you advertise the particular roles that you're after on Job Search or Job Active, the government job platform. That's the only one that we require you to have it on. But if you'd like to have it on Seek or Jaw or other job sites, that's great as well. From that information, after the 14 days, we ask you to fill out a recruitment plan template that is all quite straightforward, but it really captures some really important workforce data. And this whole labour market testing is really important. It's a very crucial safeguard that we have built into the program to ensure that no Australians miss out on that. Australians have first right of refusal for these jobs in the areas, but I understand that a lot of people are always looking for more staff, and it's certainly where we can help. We will introduce you to our labour sending units in the Pacific. So we have particular people that are employed by the Pacific Labour Facility that sit within the government of all of these sending countries. So it is a government-to-government program, and there is a partnership there between Australia and each of the sending countries as well, which is something to really keep in mind. We would really encourage you to travel out to these sending countries in order to be able to conduct the interviews face-to-face as well. And that's something that's really important from a relationship perspective. I just wanted to share this screen here. This demonstrates the steps from a Solomon Island perspective, as in terms of what workers have to do in order to become, eligible to be offered a job interview and employment down the track. So there's obviously police checks and fitness tests and medicals and work ready pool statuses and that type of thing. So there's a lot that goes on in the process, and I'm running out of time, but a few things. There is a requirement for businesses to provide suitable accommodation for at least the first 3 months when workers arrive. Now, I understand accommodation can be as rare as hen's teeth in some of the regional areas, but it is something that's really important, because workers are not coming here with, one, a bank account that's going to demonstrate that they're financially stable, or two, rental history that they can then go to local real estate agencies and attempt to secure a rental themselves. So we're thinking workers are coming to, one, provide assistance to you, but then also to save as much money, earn as much money, and remit that home each week, each month. So we're really careful about how much rent businesses or workers are being charged. Obviously, there is a commercial going rate of different areas, and that's just something to be mindful of. We are, in terms of accommodation, again, there is an element of respect. We need to understand that, different cultures, different genders, there are a lot of sensitivities around it in terms of, the makeups of the people living in the houses and things like that. It is something to be mindful, and there's more information around that and support that we can provide in the future. Any particular really important resources that you can go and find additional information? Our website is crucial. Our Facebook is just as good. But once you become an approved employer, we will add you to a mailing list for our AE updates. And that is really our key communique that comes out once a week, every Thursday afternoon, where it's a goldmine for information. I know that was a really quick snapshot, but if anybody has any questions, myself and my colleague Adrian would be really keen to answer.
Joshua, I have a question for you. So for many of the small businesses in the small towns of the Indigo Shire, is there any way that they can go through a labour hire firm rather than becoming an approved employer themselves?
Sally, that's a fantastic question, and the answer is absolutely. There are a number of approved employers that have been operating under the short-term or the long-term elements of the program in a labour hire capacity across a vast array of industries for a number of years. So, and that list can be found via our website as well. There's a list of approved employers there. So by all means, if there are any businesses on the line tonight that would like to not necessarily go down the direct employer path themselves, by all means, please visit the website and make contact with some of those labour hire companies.
Excellent, because that might be the best alternative for some of the smaller operations within our shire. And is it possible that they can sometimes share workers? A group of businesses may be able to share a work team.
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts to that question, Sally, and I'll defer to my colleague Adrian shortly. There is, I suppose, from a long-term perspective with the Pacific Labour Scheme, traditionally no. Workers are tied to one particular employer, and you're making that commitment to them, and they're making that commitment to you. With the development and the changes that are going on at the moment for the PALM scheme, there are some elements of portability that will be contained in the deed that you sign with the government that will allow some forms of portability, some forms of sharing. That's still being nutted out at the moment. So I can't provide too much, I suppose, specific detail. But Adrian, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, look, there is as Josh said, there is a couple of ways. Obviously, if businesses are looking to hire through labour hire, that does provide more portability. So a labour hire may look to place some workers in an area and have a number of hosts that the staff will work across. So that does provide some flexibility within a given area. And as Josh said, there is going to be some more flexibility built into the new program. Now they're only in a draft stage at the moment. We're still awaiting on final sign off for the guideline and the deeds for the new program, but there will be the ability in the new program for approved employers to loan workers to other businesses potentially. Obviously, if they do that, the liability and responsibility will stay with the approved employer, and they also need to prove that there is no disbenefit to the workers if they do that. But there will certainly be portability there. There will also be more of an opportunity for employers to share workers, let's say, across a recruitment. So traditionally at the moment with our program, the seasonal worker program, as Josh said, is 9 months. But with the new program, they're looking to build in a setup where, we may be able to tee up 3 different approved employers across different regions in Victoria or within your region. And it may be that employer X has got them for 3 months. Employer Y will then take them for 4 months, and employer Z will take the workers for 2 months. So we can look to put in a 9-month recruitment across the state, but each area that only has it for their specific need for peak harvest or peak season or what they particularly need the workers for.
Look, thank you so much. That's something new, and I hope people have learned something about that scheme. I've seen it on TV, but I've never really fully understood it. So thank you, and thank you for your time tonight. I will just